Welcome to My Spoonie Sisters, featuring stories from special guests dedicated to empowering those with chronic illness. Our goal? To connect people and provide the support and tools they need to live a better life. For those with chronic illness, our energy levels just fade faster. We must be more purposeful with the spoons allotted to us. So grab your coffee or tea, sister, and tune in as My Spoonie Sisters share stories of living with chronic illness. Hi, my Spoonie Sisters. I'm your host, Gracefully Jen, and I am so excited. I have Sweta here to tell us all about her illness journey and some bonus stuff too. So, hi, Sweta. How are you today?
Hi, Jenny. Great to meet you.
Okay, why don't we talk a little bit about your backstory and then we'll kind of dive in from there.
Wonderful. So I would say this story is very unique because I started having autoimmune conditions when I was born, and no one really classified them as autoimmune conditions. So I was born with epilepsy, and I was taking anti-seizure medication for a while, and I was always getting sick. No one knew why. I was always getting infections. And then, I had my tonsils taken out. And then at the age of 19, I was abandoned by my family at that time. And I had a near-death experience. A friend of mine had taken me to the ER, and she was like a surrogate mother, and they had found out I had something called autoimmune hemolytic anemia, which is classified as a rare disease and an autoimmune condition. And at that time, I realized, I'm like, what is this autoimmune? Like, this is the first time I was hearing that. So the doctor explained, this is something I have to live for the rest of my life with. They don't know what caused it. I barely stayed alive because my hemoglobin at that time was a 3.0 when I went to the ER. So they had to like match my blood in the blood bank. They had to put me on steroids. So it was a very acute situation. And that near-death experience changed my life around these conditions and knowing how serious they are and how serious they can get. But, at the other side of it, after that, I also had Hashimoto's, lupus, IVSC, alopecia, the typical autoimmune conditions. And these are all the conditions I was able to overcome. But at the time, they affected every part of the body, from the mind to just the functionality to my daily performance, behaviors. And like after you overcome these conditions, you realize what it's like to live with them and how debilitating it really is. So, yeah, that's my diagnosis story in a nutshell.
Wow. Okay, so were you diagnosed that day in the ER or did it take some time?
Oh, I was hospitalized for 6 months. So yeah, they did like MRIs, they did the CAT scan, and then luckily there was a hematologist because it was a state-of-the-art hospital. Had I gone to just a regular hospital, I don't think they would have been able to diagnose me. So I got really lucky.
Wow. Yeah, I would definitely agree. You got really lucky, but that is amazing that you were able to be at such a facility to get the care that you needed.
Yeah, in just the right time. So yeah, the doctor at that time had said, if I waited another 4 hours, I probably would have passed away, given that my body didn't have any oxygen capacity. So it was something that taught me the importance of health, and at that time I became very curious. I was always asking the doctor a million questions, and they were tired of it.
Wow. Okay, so how did it go that 6 months? Did you have visitors come to see you? What was it like?
I mean, I had like my surrogate mom, and she came to see me here and there. It was a lot of time that basically I took for myself. At that time, I realized, I was overgiving. I was really putting myself out there to be a service for others, and it kind of got me into this really stressful state. So I was reflecting upon that and just trying to connect the dots with the disease and how I wanted to live my life after that, what my stress limits were, how much I plan to do for others, and how I'll take care of myself moving forward. So these sort of situations don't happen. But it taught me a lot about the body functionality. It taught me a lot about the healthcare system and how it works, and what is not working. So I would say it was an interesting experience, but it also gave me a lot of gratitude in terms of being able to just be there at the right time, to get the treatment I needed and to have the right experts know what was going on.
Wow, that's incredible. So, looking back, what do you wish you had known at the beginning of your journey? Is there anything you really wish you'd known at that time?
It's in these situations when they get to this level of being so acute, you want to almost know, how do you prevent these situations from happening? How do you prevent other conditions from happening? And after I had Hashimoto's, I was just thinking about that. Like, what is the way to prevent more of these conditions from developing in the body? And I went on a mission. I traveled to 40 different countries. I met with all types of experts and scientists to understand this on a deeper level. Because at that time, I just could not risk putting my health, and in these sort of situations and having to perform in the workplace. Um, at the same time, it was just too much on the body, to be able to have my health dominate and also have to perform and also have to take care of these responsibilities. So that's when I had the education on how to prevent these conditions, what people can do to really take care of their bodies and manage their conditions and symptoms and keep them at bay. And that's why I developed Healveda Health. So they didn't have to do all that legwork.
That is so cool. And I want to put a pin in it. We're going to make sure we come back and talk about Healveda. But in the meantime, what would you think are the top 5 things that are just a must-have in your Spoonie toolkit?
I would say the infrared sauna. Definitely. I would say a lot of, I've done a lot of like detoxing in terms of like using vitamin D, omega-3 oils. I use a lot of like oxygenation facilities that provide that level of oxygen in the body to reduce the oxidative stress. So I would say oxygenation is another one. And then I would also say like having magnesium is huge, biglycinate, because it kind of just brings all the cells to homeostasis. And my CGM, which keeps track of the blood sugar and helps me understand the blood sugar activity throughout the day.
Wow, I think those sound like really important things. And thank you for sharing, because I'm sure that somebody out there needs that information.
Yeah.
So, my next question for you is, we're going to cover tips of encouragement. Do you have any advice or even mindset tips for others that are in a similar journey as you?
Yeah, I mean, in these journeys, it's like I see so many of us following everything to a T, and then not getting the results, and this was a repeating pattern in my life as I went through these tribulations of trying so many different things on my own body. And everyone has their own mix of what works for them. So, my mix may not work for somebody else, but in terms of the things that really impacted me and the mindset was just like continuously trying despite what others around me or what people were saying externally. Like a lot of us, we have to work out, but a personal trainer doesn't understand the body functionality of someone that has autoimmune. So, as an athlete, I would go work out and they said, you're not trying hard enough, or you're not eating the right diet that I propose. And I would be following everything to a T. So, I said, hey, I know my body better than anyone. I'm going to do this myself. And I became the fittest person I could be. And my trainer came back and said, hey, are you using the methods I gave you to for exercising and dieting? I said, no, I'm using my own methods, and they're far more effective for my body. And and these are lessons I learned over time, was really mastering the mind and the body connection to a point where if something is off in your body, you know how to fix it. You know what's going on. You feel safety. You don't feel like you have to be in this panic mode of running to the doctor every time. And so I started to just do my own lab tests. I started to do my own just taking care of my own body and being able to manage my own health and not giving up, and just keeping that mindset of I can do this, whether I'm down for the count or whether I'm, not feeling that way, that good to be able to perform. I just tell myself I can do this and I will show up whether I'm sick or not sick or going through a crazy circumstance. I've always had the ability to be able to show up in any situation. So these are a couple of things that have kept me going throughout this journey, and also really wanting to be able to help others. That's something that's like my inner fuel.
That's wonderful. Thank you for that. All right. Did I ask you this one? Maybe I did. No, I did not. I'm already losing track. Okay. How do you maintain a positive outlook despite the challenges that you face?
I would say, being able to help others, being able to know that my story and my experiences, and not even outside of autoimmune, can help a lot of women out there who had to, grow up alone or had to live a single life, and they go through these circumstances and situations that most people wouldn't. I have that compassion and understanding for their pain, from a very non-judgmental place. And that's something that I see myself providing in the future. But that keeps me going on a daily basis because I can understand someone's pain at a deeper level just because of all these circumstances and unforeseen situations, tragic situations I've been in, aside from just autoimmune conditions.
Calling all Spoonies. As a host of a chronic illness podcast, nothing lights up my day more than hearing from you, our incredible listeners. Whether it's a topic close to your heart that you want us to uncover, or you are keen to show your own journey as a guest on our show, your voice matters. Living with chronic illness can often feel isolating, but through the power of podcasting, we can come together as a community to uplift, educate, and inspire one another. Your stories, insights, and questions drive the conversations we have and the topics we explore. So if there's something on your mind, a story that you are just itching to share, or a guest you'd love to hear from, don't hesitate to reach out. Your voice is not only welcomed here, but celebrated. Let's continue to amplify the voices of those living with chronic illnesses and create a space where everyone feels heard, supported, and empowered. Together, we are stronger. Wow. And I think that's kind of an answer that I think most of us would probably provide, because that is where we get our positivity from. So, who or what lifts your spirits on a difficult day?
I would say music.
That's a good one.
Music, it's I always go salsa dancing. I've been dancing for nearly 8 years, and I think, something about salsa dancing always releases that negative energy within, and it just puts you into a positive state. It's almost medicinal.
That would be so much fun. I don't know if I could do it, but that would be so much fun.
That's the only form of dancing I can do. I cannot do any other form of dancing.
Yeah, mine is all over the place. No one needs to see that. All right, so resources. Can you recommend 3 accounts, articles, blogs, websites, anything? Is there 3 somethings of resources that you would recommend?
Resources, I mean, I would say, I always follow like Dr. Weston Childs. He's pretty he's a good doctor when it comes to just the thyroid side of health. I also read a lot of medical research through like PubMed and companies that provide that medical research. I'm also trying to build something that will allow people that have autoimmune conditions and want to understand medical research and have that comprehension of it. And I want to build something that will make it more feasible for them. So that's something I'm also working on. But all of the information I've received is mostly through medical research, conferences, and specialty doctors like Dr. Weston Childs, or doctors that have had autoimmune conditions themselves, because they know the journey, they know what it's like, they can help you navigate.
Exactly. I think that's a really good point. And they're there. You can find them. You might have to do some digging or ask people for recommendations, but there are some great doctors that have the same experiences and understand.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's hard to find those doctors, but I think like there are sources like YouTube, which provide these sort of the information you need, but it's just a filtering process, um, which makes it really tough to find like what is the information I should listen to, because throughout my journey, I read a lot of conflicting information. Like some doctors in the Chinese medicine world say that vitamin D is non-essential. But, in US, we say that, vitamin D is like if you don't have vitamin D, you're pretty much going to get sick. And so it's like who's right? They're both doctors, they both have credentials. Which modality is for your body? And that's something that I wanted to learn, on my journey of traveling to all these countries was there are so many ways to heal ourselves. Which way is best for my body? Because in some cases, like the acute case of having that autoimmune hemolytic anemia, nothing was going to help me besides steroids and blood transfusions at that point. But, right now, where my body is not going through that severity of the disease, I can explore other modalities and see how I can manage these conditions and like live a life where I don't have to constantly be debilitated or feeling like I can't do things I want to do. So, I think it's exploring these modalities. There are about 50 different modalities if you look at it. And they all provide so many different pieces of information that's vital to our own bodies. So that's something else that Healveda Health does is it explores different modalities and helps you explore different ways of basically healing yourself.
Okay, so I'm trying to think of how to transition this, but I'm just going to dive in. Tell us more about Healveda. This is something that you've started. When did you start it?
So I started it in 2020 because I was so isolated with my symptoms with Hashimoto's. And at that time, I was at the tail end of overcoming Hashimoto's. I was on doing multiple treatments and realizing, okay, well, I took thyroid medicine, it didn't work for me. What are the other options out there? So I just started building a community via Facebook group. And basically, this community started growing up to 3,000 members who were living with Hashimoto's, and they were all sharing their stories at the time of just their struggles, what they were dealing with. Um, and I realized there was a huge problem, and that problem was that there was no one there to help them navigate these situations. And I didn't see myself as a coach. I had a lot of knowledge, I had this wisdom. I wanted to share these gifts of how I overcame these conditions when I knew that, hey, I could help these people given that they have responsibilities throughout the day. They probably couldn't devote their life to their health like I have. So let me just provide them what they need. And so I started doing that. And I had 200 members I was closely working with in a pilot program setting. And I saw that somebody who can understand their pain, someone who can work through their struggles and help them piece it together from a starting point to the end point of their journey of overcoming a condition is very valuable to them, which was the starting point of building Healveda. And I thought, why don't I do this on a wider scale and have other people like myself, other trauma informed coaches, to be able to help people who have autoimmune conditions and help them build their own communities around these conditions. So it's really a place where people can find communities around their conditions. People can work with trauma informed coaches who moderate these communities, and also experts from all different modalities to find solutions.
Okay, the next thing I want you to bring up is you actually have a campaign that you're doing right now. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so this is the Make Me Visible campaign, and it's really a movement. And throughout my journey, I just felt that I was kind of always in these situations of injustice. And I always had to be the person that took a stand. I always had to be the person that had the courage to say, no, this is not right. You will not treat me this way. And even then, people did not understand. People did not believe me and believe that this was a serious condition and something that people had to be accommodated for. So I felt that, Make Me Visible is a campaign to help others be seen, to help their struggles be out there so people can understand and have compassion and also have that acceptance around these conditions so they don't feel isolated when they have to go into a social setting and they're everyone's drinking and they can't, or they have to go out for dinner with a group of members and everyone's having enchiladas and they are having a salad. It should not be unacceptable. It should not be seen as weird. And we should be accepted in a society that has freedoms and rights for everyone, just as everyone else is. So, throughout these experiences, I discovered that there's a need for people to be seen. And I want to drive that need. And I want to be the voice for people to be seen with their conditions.
Okay, so if somebody that's listening to this right now wants to join in your movement, what do they need to do?
So if they want to join the movement, all they have to do is share their story at healveda.health. And then once they submit their story, they will receive an email where they will record a small 2-minute video of a time when they had to compromise their health or feel like their health was compromised just so they can fit in to a certain situation or circumstance that they were dealing with and how they would want to change that in the future. And then simply tag another person and make them visible. So there are so many people out there that are suffering in silence. They all want to be seen, but they're afraid to be seen. And this is the movement that will allow them to be seen for who they are.
That's wonderful. And for those that are listening, I actually did this. So when this launches, you'll get to see my video. Honestly, I couldn't think of a particular time, but what came to my mind was how I always felt like people didn't see me as sick with my rheumatoid arthritis. But as soon as I had the allergic reaction to my TNF inhibitor causing the pustular psoriasis, that's when people took it seriously because it was visible. It was all over my skin. And so that's when people were like, oh my gosh, like something's wrong. You are sick. And it shouldn't be like that. I should be able to tell you that there's something wrong and have you treat me the same way, whether you can see it or whether you cannot.
Absolutely. And I think, it's tough in the world we live in today because there are people that, try to get away with things. And it seems like people with autoimmune are just trying to have an excuse sometimes, but it's not that way. And if we don't take a stand, then who will? And why should we be treated this way in a society that has freedoms and rights for everyone?
100%. So I am excited for this campaign. If anyone's listening, please, please do this. I think it's so important. I am begging you to do this because who else is going to tell your story?
No one.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of people that can hear your story and feel impacted, and you just get the strength from your story to keep going. It's almost like their survival guide.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, so is there any last bit of advice that you would want to give to someone listening?
So if there's someone listening to this story today, I encourage you to not give up on your journey, no matter what anyone says, and no matter how you feel treated in a world that may not accept us for who we are with our conditions. There are always ways to go about things, and the one piece of advice I can give is question everything, because someone can give you advice. I mean, doctors always gave me advice of, hey, you should take this prescription, but you can also have kidney disease. I mean, that's almost, for me, that's like, it almost sounds like a scam to my body. you know? So I questioned everything. And that's how I was able to get to the bottom of these conditions and eventually live my best life where I don't have to feel like I'm in this anxiety of, hey, should I leave my house or is something going to happen to me? And I think that was the anxiety of something coming up around my health was the biggest anxiety when it came to living my best life. So that's my advice.
I think it's wonderful. I think it's very good advice, and I hope people listen to that. Where can people find and follow you?
They can follow me. They can follow our company at Healveda. They can personally follow me at Sweta Speaks. I haven't personally started transitioning into the health sector. Previously, my background was in startups and entrepreneurship. I was working at various different incubators. And so that's why a lot of the followers I have there are mostly entrepreneurs. So when I talk about autoimmune conditions, they're like, what is this about?
Yeah, don't know this side of you.
But it's I had to reinvent myself after I overcame these conditions, and I saw the seriousness of them, and I saw how people are treated with them. That's why I said, no, this is something I want to change. So
That's great. Now, I have asked you several questions. Is there anything we haven't covered that you think we need to talk about?
I think we covered the resources, we covered the story, we covered a lot of different points
Yeah.
of conversation. I mean, I think one thing people don't often look at is something I learned from my own journey is that the physical manifestation of the condition is not as important as what's really going on at a deeper level inside the body and understanding how that physical manifestation happened. So oftentimes, it took me back to a lot of my relationships. It took me back to a lot of my life experiences and those long periods of living in instability throughout the life can really be the starting point of these conditions. But once I started to overcome them, I saw that hey, yes, I would still get viruses, I would still get infections, but I was getting over these infections and viruses without them prolonging for like 3 to 4 weeks. Other things I started to notice was that, I wasn't as prone because I would go to third world countries and I wouldn't get anything. I personally studied the body in a way where I understood exactly what the body has been through in the lifetime and being able to connect those dots and understand the manifestation of the disease is extremely important when trying to overcome it. And in building the community, this is one thing that I did see was a lot of people can look at their disease from the standpoint of, wow, I just feel like this is such a curse because it's something that sets me back from the rest of the crowd. If I didn't have it, I would have such a better life. But, I started to see this in a way of what gifts has it given me? It's given me humility, it's given me discipline. It's given me like the need to have great health and the determination to want to do anything to have my health back. And this is something that most people would not have. So it really has built my character. It shaped me as a person. And I think more people can benefit from it if they think of it from that standpoint.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think if we focus and redirect our mind to thinking of all the things that we wouldn't have without going through what we have, it's astounding. It makes us more compassionate, more patient, more understanding with people. And if we were to just live a normal, healthy life, we wouldn't have that.
Exactly. And I saw a huge change in the behaviors as well. I was someone that with autoimmune, I was easily irritable. I had like emotional outbursts. Like these are things that I saw change after overcoming the conditions because and no one understood this about me. They just classified me as, oh, she's weird or she's strange, there's something wrong with her. But I said, it's not me, it's these conditions, the way that they can manifest in our body and cause so many different things to just change, including our own behavior.
Yeah, it wreaks havoc throughout your body.
So,
Yeah. Well, thank you for joining us and thank you for your time. And well, my Spoonie sisters, until next time, don't forget your spoon. The information, opinions, and recommendations presented in this podcast are for general information only. Consult your own physician for any medical issues that you may be having. The information should not be taken as a replacement for medical, clinical, professional advice, diagnoses, or medical intervention. My Spoonie sisters and guests will not be held liable for any of the consequences of such action or inaction. Trigger warning. Some episodes may cover sensitive topics including, but not limited to, suicide, abuse, mental illness, and chronic disease. You are advised to refrain from listening if you are likely to be offended or adversely impacted by any of these topics. None of the guests or hosts will be responsible for your use of the information contained therein. Life is not merely to be alive, but to be well. Living a life with a chronic illness is best described with one word: unpredictable. Be Well's products are designed to make the unpredictable easier to deal with. Back when I was getting my infusions, I would have loved to have their adult zip hoodie. They even have one in pink. They also have everything from one-day pill holders to urgency buckets. So remember, they want to make your life a little easier. So be sure to check out Be Well.